spending plans are very complicated. And so I'm calling this the intro to spending plans because there is so much to learn about them and our rules are changing all the time. So, but I want participants to know what a spending plan looks like or could look like. So you're not kind of going into this blind. What can go into it? What are the rules as you're trying to decide what can go onto it? So let's talk about spending plans. I think spending plan is the most exciting part of self-determination because that's really when that person-centered plan you created starts coming to life. What is this? What are the services really going to look like now? And so I think this is an exciting time. If you are following along with our training, our last month we talked about budget. So you are here. We're already on the fifth step. So if you're following along, you are getting very close to being in the program. So continue on with us. We're going to keep walking through the steps. Before I start any presentation, we talk about the principles of self-determination because they're going to pop up all the time in why we're here, what we're doing. And so we want to make sure we're always following these. And we want to know that everybody with a disability has the freedom, authority, responsibility, support, and confirmation over their lives. So this isn't just about services. This is also about civil rights. It's really important that we know that our loved ones have these rights, and we kind of take them for granted that we have them, but we have to fight to make sure that our loved ones have them. Okay, so what we're going to learn today, again, this is just an intro because this could be a 3-hour training. We could just talk about spending plans. But what we're going to talk about, what is the spending plan? What can go in one? What can't go in one? We're going to see a couple samples, and I'm going to give you some tips along the way here. So, one of the biggest and most confusing pieces of self-determination program is really understanding the difference between a budget and a spending plan. And I'll tell you, there are days I even get them mixed up and confused. What are we talking about? What part are we talking about? So it's really clear that we start really understanding what the two are. The budget, which if you're here, hopefully you already have been talking with budget with your regional center. You may already have one in place. That's the total dollar amount you have to spend. And those are based on traditional service codes. So remember, these are the ones that had you stayed in the traditional system, this is what they would have spent on you. And they certify that when they sign your budget, when you agree to a budget. You are under the purchase of service policy rules, which means we have 21 regional centers. Each of those regional centers has a purchase of service policy for their services. These policies can vary between regional centers. So I'll give you an example. One might say, we have a rule that we're only giving 4 social rec per year. And another regional center could say you can have unlimited. Now, when it comes to your budget, you have to follow that rule. They can't put all the ones in there. So those kind of purchase of services will affect your budget. They do not affect your spending plan. In the budget, you have vendored services in general, and they set the rates for those services. Okay. But go back to always kind of remember, traditional services, total dollar amount. Now we get over to the spending plan. The spending plan is created by the participant. And this is key. And this is saying, this is how I'm going to spend that total dollar amount. This is how I'm going to spend the budget. If you see service codes in the 300 range, those are the self-determination program service codes. These are the services you're going to be looking at now. So you're not limited to what the traditional services are. So remember, self-determination program has a lot more options for services. So now you're going to go by the SDP service codes. We'll talk about where to find them and everything in a moment. Those traditional purchase of service policies do not apply. Sometimes we have to remind regional centers that they don't apply. But they do not apply because remember, those purchase of service policies are for traditional system services. We are not in traditional system services any longer. The services are not required to be vendored, and you get to set the rates. So People tend to use those terms, spending plan and budget, interchangeably, but they really are not in this case. They're very different. Okay. So let's talk about what the spending plan is. So this is a document and it's going to be changing. If anybody has ever said, okay, I'm going to live within a budget and this week I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, we know it has to shift and move. It has to be flexible, right? It is created by you, the participant, or your loved one who's helping you, an independent facilitator who's helping you. So this is you saying, this is how I want to spend the money. It's going to identify the cost of the goods and the services that you want to purchase. Um, Obviously, it can't be more than the budget, so your total dollar amount. It's funny they put that in there. It kind of seems obvious, but maybe not. So you have to stay within your budget. It's going to be attached to your IPP. Why is that important? Because when they attach it to your IPP is an agreement that you make when you sign this with the regional center. So that means when they agree to this, when you were all on this, this is also an agreement that these services are going to be provided. That comes in play if you need protections later on. So that's an important piece. Also, this is going to provide the information to your financial management service of who and how much you want to be paid. Okay. Now, like so many other things in self-determination program, there is no current standardized template for a spending plan. Now, I do understand there is discussion of one being created, but we do not currently have one. So what does that mean? It means some regional centers have a template they want you to use. Some financial management services have a template they want you to use. If they don't have those, then you can use your own however you want to turn it into them. So it gets really fun if your regional center wants theirs and your financial management service wants one, you're making multiple, but that's, yeah. I don't know what to say about that, but that's the world we live in right now. So the first question we always get, how do you know if an item is okay to be in your spending plan? So the regional center is going to certify your spending plan. This recently changed. They didn't used to certify them. This is part of a new trailer bill language that went into effect. And they are going to make sure that the items on your spending plan meet three specific things. And we're going to talk about each one of them because, again, they like to use terminology that isn't really plain to the whole rest of the world. The item has to be federally reimbursable, a generic resource was attempted, and it's related to a goal in your IPP and the person's disability. If it meets those three requirements, they should not be micromanaging. Those are really the ones that are in the law saying these are the one. If it meets these requirements, it should be okay to be in your spending plan. So let's talk about what each of those means. Federally reimbursable is a very complicated way of saying it's on that list of self-determination program service code definitions. This makes sense, right? It has to be on the things that are available and offered in self-determination program. There's two places that I go to look when I want to know if it's okay to do in self-determination program. So the first is the service code definitions. Department of Developmental Services are the ones who contract all the regional centers. They have a website, and on that site, it has this, I think it's 32, 34-page document that goes into really good descriptions about all of them. So you read this. This is a very important document. I have mine printed out, so you know, okay, can this go on my spending plan? Look at those descriptions. Does it fit? Now, I want you to know on those descriptions are some things with generic resources, which we're going to talk about next, but it's good to know, okay, it's on this list. I can ask for this. And the second place to look that it has a good description of whether something's allowable or not is this goods and service directive. Now, they've updated this directive a few times, so look for the January 2024 one because that has the most recent And it has an on enclosure B. So don't forget, you can get these slides and get the links. It'll take you directly to this directive. And that little chart goes through this is permissible, this is not permissible. So that these are the two places that are really helpful to know. Okay, is this something that is federally reimbursable or allowable in the self-determination program? Step two, what is the generic resource? Okay. You have to attempt a generic resource. Generic resource is another. They love these like weird terms and words in the regional center world. It's kind of like a whole nother language. Um, but the regional center is the payer of last resort. What that means is that other agencies that get federal dollars must be used first before the regional center can. Now, there's some big ones when you're at school age, which is the school district, right? So the school district, so you're going to typically see budgets that are smaller for regional center for school-aged participants because they have this huge generic resource. So what does that mean? It means you can't go into self-determination program and say, I just want to get speech because I don't like what they offer at the school district, or they're not offering me what I want. And so I'm just going to go into self-determination program and do that. You can't do that, unfortunately. In the perfect world, we all wish it would do that, but we can't do that. So you still have to ask school district first for those types of services, get a denial, insurance, if it's something that insurance would cover, get a denial from them, and then regional center can pay for the service. So even though we're going to self-determination program, we are still regional center clients. We still have regional center rules around these things of how it can be spent. Now, a lot of people ask about in-home support services. Is self-determination going to impact those services or vice versa? They do not. So getting self-determination program is not going to impact your in-home support service hours. However, those hours could be counted when they're figuring out your budget. So let's say you need 24-hour care and you get 6 hours a day in-home support services. They will count that when they're totaling to make sure you have coverage. So that's the only time in-home support services are going to really show up anywhere in this. Because remember, it's a whole separate waiver. It's a whole different system. So, but other than that, the thing that I hear quite often is that regional centers misuse the term generic resource. They say anybody who is offering something for free, you have to use first. That is not correct. And I use this welfare and institution code all the time. So when I have somebody who says, hey, you have to go to this local nonprofit is giving away iPads. You need to go to them first. They may not be a generic resource. If they're not getting federal funds and those are not offered to the general public, then they're not considered a generic resource. So I do use this definition a lot, something to save. Okay. And the third thing they have to check, and you're going to get to the point where you're going to check these in your mind as you're doing your spending plan all the time. What does related to goal and disability mean? So, in order to be on your spending plan, it has to be related to a goal in your IPP. We're going to go back to person-centered plan. Remember, person-centered plans are not required, but we highly recommend them because they are going to inform your individual program plan. This is back to why those are so important, because now we're getting to the spending plan. I have to have a goal in my IPP in order to spend it in my spending plan. So that's why you want that really great, robust person-centered plan that's going to inform that IPP. Now, what we do know is that different regional centers will complete the IPP at different points in time. Some will start it early and you don't sign it till the end of the transition process. Some won't even do one until after you're in self-determination program. But in general, you need to know that there needs to be a goal around what you are working towards. And then the second one, it has to be related to your disability. This one's a hard one. Let me think of a good example might be you have a minor and you want to buy, they want a bicycle. And if this is just a standard everyday bicycle and you would normally buy a bicycle for a 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, then you couldn't put it in the spending plan. Now, if you need an adaptive bicycle for a specific reason, then you could put it in your spending plan because now it's related to the disability. So think about that. So you do have things that are, your typical parental responsibility, things that you would normally pay for that you can't put in your spending plan. But something like this that is related to their disability, then you could put it in there. And I put this at the bottom of every single one. If the items meet these three requirements, the regional center should approve. I'm saying should because it just, in the perfect world, they would, but sometimes there has to be some discussions back and forth. So here are the things that they should not be doing, should not be impacting your spending plan. And I'm putting should in quotes because I do know there are regional centers that are doing these things. So don't get too caught up in shoulds when you are trying to get your loved one into self-determination program. Do what it takes to get them in. And if they say, we want to see respite and you are going to use respite anyway, put it on there. I'm kind of a path of least resistance person. We have people out there advocating. We are out there advocating. Disability Voices United is out there advocating to get the systems changed. But when it comes to you as participants and participant loved ones to get in, do what it takes to get into the program. So they should not be requiring the services in your budget to match your spending plan. That is not how self-determination program is written in the law. It's not how it's intended. But I will tell you, I am seeing this. So don't be surprised. Get the ombudsperson involved. Have a good independent facilitator if this is something your regional center is doing. And again, if they're trying to apply those purchase of service policies, they should not be doing that. So keep these things in mind. I'm saying it shouldn't impact it, but there is a certain amount of just reality check of it may. When you are in the self-determination program, you now have the ability to hire employees. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of details about the models for financial management service and all those pieces because we're going to talk about that next month. And we're going to go in tons of detail. But I do want you to know on your spending plan that you can say, I want to hire an employee. And when you do, everybody, no matter who you are, where you work, there are taxes that the employee pays, and there are taxes the employer pays. Now, a lot of people who haven't been employers before may or may not know that your employer are paying part of the taxes. Now that you're going to a self-determination program, you're going to be the employer. You're learning that you will be paying some of the taxes for your employees. This is called an employer burden rate in the self-determination program. Sounds scary, it's not. What it is your financial management service is going to give you a percentage. And you need to, let's say, I'm going to pay my employee $20 an hour. You have to increase that by the 20% to get what it's actually going to cost. There can be other costs for employees that you want to think about that you want to include in your spending plan. Those could be like health insurance if it's required. It's not always required. There's a lot of rules around this. Cell phone stipends if they are needing to log in under EVV. So those other kind of costs should be considered, and there should be a plan for overtime because let's say you don't expect people to go into overtime. Things always happen. Somebody calls in late. You lose an employee and then the other employee covers those hours and then they end up going into overtime. So plan for a little bit so you don't end up running out of money. So spending plan is all about planning on spending. Okay, do not panic if you are not an Excel person. This is a sample plan. You have access to this on our website. It's an Excel plan. I happen to be an Excel person, so I like Excel because I don't like hand calculating numbers. I'm afraid you'll make mistakes, those kind of things. So you can use this plan if you would like. You are not required. Remember, there's no standard plan, but you can use ours. It's free. Anybody can use it. And we're going to go through kind of the sections here of the plan. I just wanted to give you a big picture of what it looks like. But for me, I'm a visual person. When people are talking about spending plans, I need to see one. I can't just talk about it in the abstract. So that's why I wanted to share this with you so you could see what a spending plan looks like. And so this is a sample spending plan for Teddy Bear, and he has a certified budget amount of $35,000. And we're going to talk through each of these sections. So, most of the regional centers want to see what rate and what model, well, remember, we're going to talk about that in detail next month, your financial management service is. So they know what to pay them, what you're agreeing to. Some of them have it in other forms or other ways, but in general, they want to see. Now, remember, the financial management service costs do not come out of your budget. So what we'll do is the first line on all of mine is I'll put who our financial management service is. We're using the best one for this one. They have one invoice per month for 12 months. And in this case, they have 5 to 10 services. They're using sole employer. So it's $600 a month. And then I zeroed it out. So this, if you notice, it's not in my total here because remember, we don't have to pay for this. So it was $7,200 was the total. I subtracted that 7,200. So this is just like a placeholder for the financial management service costs. After that, you can see that Teddy Bear is going to hire an employee. And his employee, and this is for community integration, this person's going to go out into the community with them, pick them up. They're going to go do these, fun things in the community, maybe even take them to their classes. He's going to hire his cousin Bear. They're going to be using service code 320. They're planning 8 hours per week that he's going to hire this employee. The annual units is instead of 52 weeks, he said, well, there's going to be a couple weeks that I'm always out of town at the holiday. So I'm going to plan this for 50 weeks. He's going to pay him $20 an hour. His financial management service gave him the employer burden rate of 22.5%. So that went right there. So look at his adjusted rate is $24.50. We planned a little bit of overtime here. And I'll tell you how I came up with that dollar amount. When we got all of the things in the total budget, we had leftover money, and I said, let's put it here for that. The next thing he wanted to do is he said, I'm going to take some classes in the community. He listed the types of classes here. He used descriptive terms. He didn't say anything specific. We want it descriptive enough the financial management service can pay for. It's very clear what they're paying for, but not so descriptive that it reduces your flexibility. So this gets a little bit tricky, right? So I don't put karate, I put martial arts, because what if the participant says, well, I'm going to do jujitsu, and then I'm going to do karate, and then I might do some other kind of martial arts. So, but it's very clear that any of those are martial arts. I can do the same thing with art classes, music classes, right? Then, because they knew 2 of the providers' names, they listed the providers' names. Now, I have TBD here. Right now, there are large discussions about whether you can put to be determined on the spending plan. I'm not certain what you do if you don't know who it's going to be yet. That's where some of the discussions are going around. But so for right now, as of today, we know that he's going to be going to Pottery RS for ceramics. He already has them picked out. He's already going to go to Joe's Karate for martial arts. He's going to do 2 sessions per week for 50 weeks, same thing. And he's going to say, okay, it's $100 per session, right? So that means $100 for karate, $100 for ceramics. Employee number 2, similar to employee number 1, 4 hours per week. I hope this is starting to make sense and click for you of how you create this plan. Now look at we're going to look at the next group here, customized employment. He's going to have employment supports from Employment RS for 4 hours per week. He's going to have transportation. He's going to have Lyft services. And he's going to get $275 a month for his Lyft services. He's determined that's how much he wants. And his independent facilitator is here as well. They put in 10 hours of independent facilitator service per year. So the per is week, month, year, day. Um, and so, and then the bottom down here, um, he was going to have some training. So he wants to be a better bear. And so he's going to go to bear training. And that was one session for $350 a year. Okay. So you've seen a sample spending plan. Now, I don't want you to panic if you're not an Excel person. I know Excel can be really scary for people who are not Excel people. You could use this sample spending plan as well. I have seen people who have used this sample spending plan and they've written them in by hand. It's okay. If you put all that same information, what budget category? So that there are 3 budget categories: living arrangement, employment and community, and health and safety. And you'll see all of those on the service code lists. So you'll have what the service is, that description, what the service code is, that frequency. 2 times per week for 50 weeks at the rate, at such and so rate. And then the total amount. So you can do it however you want to get this information to them. Like we said, right now there is not a mandated template. To get those spending plan templates that I just showed you, go to our complete guide to sdp.org/spending-plan, and you can get the sample spending plans there so that you can use. Okay, things I want you to think about when you're creating your spending plan. I want to make sure that you're using the right person for the job. So there's a couple things about where we kind of can shift our mindset when we're in the self-determination program. When you're in the traditional system, if they give you, say, you have to use the most cost-effective or you have to use a generic resource, it's kind of equivalent to a denial, right? They're saying no, and then you get nothing. Now, in self-determination program, because you have this total budget, the more you can find generic resources that will provide something to you, you can use that money on other things. So all of a sudden, generic resources become our friend in self-determination program. Finding the most cost-effective, finding the right person for the job is really going to help you stretch your dollars, which is what we want to do. We want to show, remember, our principles: freedom, authority, responsibility, support, and confirmation. So we want to show we are responsible with these funds. We are going to do what's available in those services, and we are going to do it really well. As I said before, leave buffers. Right now, what we know is it takes a long time at every single regional center that I am aware of to move funds. It shouldn't be that way. We want it to get fixed. We are working hard to get it fixed, but right now it means it takes a long time. So don't cut things so close that maybe you put in, I want to purchase an item. You put the exact item with the tax and the shipping, and then when you go to buy it, the shipping's 10 cents more. If you put that exact amount, you're going to have to transfer funds, and it's going to be a pain. Give yourself some buffers. Leave a little extra room. Keep track of your spending for the same reason. If you are going to run out of money, let's say you had that situation where the employee left and you had one employee doing a lot of more hours and went into overtime, and you're like, uh-oh, I better shift some money. Shift that money early. Plan ahead. We know it's going to take time to move that money. Partner with your financial management service. It's so important. You get a financial management service that works well for you. And so keep on top of your spending, plan ahead, get help if you need it. I totally understand. Spending plans are a big learning curve. It's probably one of the biggest learning curves. What can go in them? What are the rules? We're getting a lot of different feedback from different regional center, the rules. If you need assistance, there's a couple places that you can go. If you can find an independent facilitator, I'm very aware there is a shortage right now. If you can find one, that they're great to help you with your first spending plan. It may be you just need them until you learn how to do it and then you can take it over. Most of my clients by their third year are doing it on their own. Um, most of the local volunteer advisory committees, those ones that we told you about at your regional center, they have funds to spend. And a lot of them are spending funds on coaching. So if you get stuck and you need assistance, go to your local volunteer advisory committee and say, do you have coaches available that could help me with the spending plan? Ask your service coordinator, do you guys have coaching available? You can ask your service coordinator for assistance. Some of them are better at it than others. Some regional centers will move you into a unit that's only self-determination program, in which case those service coordinators are really good at helping you with spending plans. Some of them, you don't go into a unit and you might have a service coordinator who's never done self-determination programming before. Now, don't be hard on them. I want you to know there's I think we're about 450,000 people in the regional center system, and we're just over 7,000 in the self-determination program. So the chance your service coordinator has never done a self-determination program client is probably very high. We need to kind of link arms, work together, join forces. Don't be upset with them if they've never done this. It's a relatively new program. Work together to sort it out, to figure out what needs to get done. So again, if you get stuck and you want anything, you can get this video and the slides for this presentation on completeguide-to-sdp.org. Go there anytime, and that way you can find the current, like the description of everything that we talked about today, a video of this, and you can also always come to either one of these meetings and ask questions. So we can try to help. Our goal is to get everybody into self-determination program that wants to be in it. So next month, as I said earlier, we are talking about financial management services. It's another big topic. Lots to talk about it, lots to understand. And so we're going to make sure that you guys are comfortable in knowing how to find the right financial management service for you.